I got my first real job by hounding the owner of the company until he gave me a job. It worked for me. Um, it was the first ISP in Ireland back in the 90s, and I desperately wanted to get into internet. So I joined and I stayed for about a year before I left. And I left because they were being bought out and didn't suit me. So I then started up on my own internet company, and our first office was, well, my apartment was where it began, and I had a graphic designer working with me out of my apartment. And then we got business and we needed space because this was taking over my apartment. So I went looking and I found an office space in a place called The Factory on Barrow Street. Barrow Street is now famous for Google being there, but I was the first internet company on Barrow Street. In 1997, there was a rehearsal and recording studios, rehearsal really, not much recording went on there. And I found a place to rent there, tiny little space at the back of the building. I cover this in another video too. And that was our first space. Then, very soon, shortly after, another space in the same complex came up in a place called the Yellow House. The Yellow House was literally a yellow house at the front of the complex on the street. And we took the first floor there. And then we were offered a place in Dunleary where we moved to, and that was certainly the nicest space that we had. It was the top floor of an old house. It was all nicely renovated and everything. We had the converted attic, which had a tall ceiling and things. It wasn't like a small space, and that came with the floor immediately before it, which had a large office and a smaller office separate to it as well. And at the end of it, I certainly had 10 people working there with me, trying to make things happen. My mistakes were not pushing hard enough to follow through on ideas that I had. One was a game, and I was not into gaming. I was not a gaming company. That wasn't what I did, so I didn't follow through on that one. That was Minecraft. And then the other big one that I went out of business at the time I was working on this project was called Bubble, and Bubble was a social network, a Facebook back then. There was no such thing really. But then it all went bust for me in 1999. Went out of business, ran out of money, had to shut down. It's all very sad. And yeah, so my internet career really lasted from about 94, maybe 93, when I learned to write web pages and upload and publish, to 99. So it was 6 years. So it's my 50th year, so what's 6 into 50? I don't know. But it's almost, it's more than 10%? Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I have to think my numbers here. I wasn't thinking to do any maths in this video. But yeah, so that was more than 10% of my life invested in internet. And it was a great ride. One of the things I was most proud of was, this was early days working for the ISP. I did a website for a bank and a product that they had called Accelerator. And I don't know what bank it was, one of the big ones here. There was only a few. And I had made a web page for it, such that when you landed on the page, you had to click an image on the page, or you had to click something on the page, and immediately a large image would appear, as in it's accelerated loading for you here, because I just preloaded the image further down the page, and it was an A name href to pull you down to the image, which was just sitting up below on the screen waiting. But that was pretty cool. People did recognize that. Yeah, I did the budget. I think I talked about that in another video. That was an all-nighter, all day and all night. Yeah, there were fun days, my internet days. So really, it started in my apartment, then it went to the Monto. Monto is a district in the north side of Dublin City. Go check it out, it's famous for lots of things. Really should move that camera closer, probably, shouldn't I? How about that? Oh yeah. Well, that's more like sitting by the fire now, isn't it? As you can see, my production is not something I take much attention of. Hi, Bo. And yeah, so I'll end there. Thank you very much for watching. They were great days, the internet days. They really, really were. I remember something so cool, and I haven't met anyone yet who also remembers this. The day Jerry Garcia died, Grateful Dead, the news groups were flooded with new groups which created ASCII art. The list of news groups printed out, you looked at it and it was an image referring to Jerry Garcia. And I know I took a photograph of that on that computer that I was using back then, but does anybody have computer data that they had back then? I guess some people probably do. I moved house and job too much for maintaining any of that stuff before the cloud. So that's it. Okay. Thanks for watching. Don't give up on your idea, I guess, is my message here at the end of the day. Like, I could have followed through with developing a game. It's 5 years before Minecraft. And I bet that would have been great, right? I mean, people like Minecraft. It was the same thing I was proposing. And then I had an idea for free telephony, like, you know, you don't need to pay your phone bill anymore, you can just use internet IP, and I didn't follow through on that either. Now, it was before iPhone, any of that kind of technology, so there was no smartphone, so it was complicated, it wasn't as effective I was proposing, but still. Yeah, and then Bubble was my final one, the social network. But, you know, I've projected in my mind futures of being hugely successful with things. And to be honest with you, I think I'm much happier the way I am. Not being a millionaire, not having all that money, not having a successful, hugely popular thing out there that I've done yet. Because I know that with all of that comes such responsibility. I mean, I could not build spaceships if I had lots of money. I would have to help people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't have that ethos that these guys seem to have. I mean, they seem to be off center in their thinking on what they're doing with their massive wealth. Um, yeah. Anyway, it's not my business, is it? Nope, sure ain't. I'm happy for that. Thanks for watching.